So I wanted to ask you about your personal experiences with
Mhm.
OCD and anxiety because I know you wrote a book about it.
Yes.
So what inspired your book? Yes, you can.
Yes. So I had always wanted to write a book mainly because I was diagnosed with PANDAS when I was 11 years old. So PANDAS is pediatric autoimmune neurological disorder associated with strep. So basically, I had strep so many times. I ended up getting the swine flu and then strep, and it triggered all these symptoms that align with a handful of mental illnesses. So with PANDAS, the six symptoms are anxious tics, anxiety, OCD, anorexia, depression, and panic attacks. And I went from someone that had always been a shy and anxious kid to someone that could not function in the real world because I had all six of those symptoms almost like overnight. So I went through the process of seeing different therapists and I had all these book recommendations. And while they were all coming from the right place, it was all like more like textbooks or big like how to overcome OCD 101 written by like a medical professional. I don't actually know if that's the title of a book. I just can't remember. I just know I had a handful of books that were given to me and I was just kind of like I don't like I'm 11 years old. I can't comprehend any of this. Going to even further into middle school and high school, I still was like I like it's weird that there's nothing out there about like specifically like pandas and OCD and like personal stories. So then during the lockdown in March, right when it happened, I was like, okay, I think this is my time because school was closed and the studios were closed. So I was like, okay, I need something to come out of this. And then April rolls around and I was like, okay, I still haven't like really made any moves. I'd been writing, but then stopped writing, then stopped. And then um I like this is such a me thing that everyone's always like, this is always how these things happen, where I just get myself into these things where I found the person that designed the cover of my book. I searched her on Instagram, found her, did a ton of research. She was the one that I was like, okay, I'm so into her graphic designs. She's local New England based from Maine. And basically messaged her on Instagram that night and was like, so I have a book written, I want to publish it. Here's like what I want. And can you design the cover for me? She was like, yeah, sure. Like, how many pages are it? And I was like, oh, I'll get back to you really soon. She's like, okay, I need to know in like a few days. So just give me a few days. And so then I was like, oh my God, I haven't written a book. I lied to her. So I basically, I didn't like lie, but I knew that if I like told somebody and like committed to it and like then she was like telling me the pricing and I was like, you know what, sure. So I literally just Venmoed her the price and then I was like, okay, I just paid for a book cover and I don't even have a book, and I told her that I did. So I like sat down and for like 48 hours wrote the book, and then I told her how many pages it was, and then it was just a ton of editing. So it was basically like I wanted something to come out of the pandemic. I wanted there to be something helpful, and I also wanted there to be a resource that people could look at and realize like, okay, she might have a degree in psychology, but I'm not a like medical professional, and it's really my own story. It's not like research and case studies that I've conducted myself. It's just like my raw truth. So that is how the book came out.
48 hours straight?
Yes, I just really
How do you
cranked it
sit
out.
down and do that?
I really cranked it out, sat down, drank a ton of coffee, and just like powered through.
Also, I didn't realize that the amount of pages mattered for a title.
Yes, for her to get the specs for like the binding of the book, she needed to know how many pages to know how much like width and the spacing. I didn't realize either until she was asking for all this info, and I was like, oh, yeah. As you're messaging me, I'm googling everything you're saying, so I have no idea what you're talking about, but learning along the way. But no, I definitely think part of like with my, especially my OCD, is when I get very like focused on something, good or bad, and I've made myself more aware of when it's bad to shift it more good. That's like the only thing I will focus on and obsess with. So that's kind of how I was able to like sit down and just write, because that's the only thing my brain was thinking about.
Hmm. So, and when you're in these moments where your OCD, you can tell that it's going to become focused on a negative thing, how do you snap out of it?
I think one of my biggest things that I found is like taking a step back. And that sounds so easy and simple, but I think one of the things I realize is I'm always someone that wants kind of like the instant gratification, that like jumps in and almost tries to like problem solve right away, and am like finding that as I've like gotten older, usually in the past I would try to like distract myself right away, find something else to do, and then it would just either come back later or I would be distracted doing something else and I would be absolutely miserable. So I think almost like taking a step back and saying like, I recognize like these thoughts are there. It's not a part of me, but just something that's going on. Everybody has thoughts. Taking a second to just like almost like just let everything be and recognize like stillness and space, and then not ignoring what's going on in your brain, but just saying like, I recognize it's there, I'm not ignoring it, but I'm not acting upon it or validating it, and then just keep moving from there. So it's almost like taking a breath and then regrouping and then proceeding from there.